Hey everyone, my name is JAIMES-LOPEZ, and today I would like to share some of the experiences that I've had with professional wrestling. I've heard many stories about how professional wrestling is fake and how it's not real, and how like bloodshed is not real, and the chair shots and all that stuff is not real. At one point, I went from being a fan, and then once I heard all those stories, I stopped watching wrestling. But then after watching and reading all these articles and watching all these videos, they've definitely changed my mind on professional wrestling, and now I'm a big fan of professional wrestling. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you have also heard those stories before about how wrestling is fake, supposedly. Um, Today I would like to show all of you why professional wrestling, such as the WWE, is not fake. And so basically, these are the reasons why. So professional wrestling is actually scripted, and professional wrestling, they use wrestling moves, they use real weapons, and the bloodshed is also very very real. Um, in professional wrestling, a lot of wrestlers have to deal with real life injuries that could potentially end their careers. Um, those injuries are very very common in professional wrestling. So pro wrestling is actually so the first thing that I want to talk about is that professional wrestling is actually scripted. Um, one thing that one word that is very very common in professional wrestling is actually kayfabe. Kayfabe pretty much means it's pretty much when a wrestler and when all the wrestlers stick to their character, when they are usually like in like talk show hosts, when they are with like talk shows, they usually stick to the character to make their characters and the stories within the matches very very real. um Wrestlers also follow a script, and the script is usually what schedules the show for the night. And um another thing that wrestlers do is that they do storytelling within the ring. So pretty much when they have like problems with other wrestlers in the ring, they're telling a story. Sometimes those problems between those two wrestlers, they may not be real, but at the same time, they can also be, real issues between the wrestlers. One example is like um, Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. They made their storyline very real because they made it seem like they actually hated each other, and in reality, those two guys actually did hate each other backstage. And another thing is that the booker is usually the person that decides the winner of the match. Um, another thing that I want to talk about is the moves and the weapons and the bloodshed that is used within professional wrestling. Um, so one thing that I want to talk about is that wrestlers, when they get slammed, people think that wrestlers land on like a very thin, not very thin, but a very very thick layer of cushion, so that it doesn't hurt. But the reality is that wrestlers actually get slammed onto a wooden floor, like on the mat. The mat is pretty much made of like a very very thin layer of foam to reduce the impact, but below that it's like a very very thick layer of wood, and below that it's like steel beams. So um, the impact that the wrestlers take when they get body slammed, that's actually very very real, and it hurts a lot. Um, Another thing that I want to talk about is how like the steel chairs that they use in matches are very real. That's one thing that cannot be faked. Sometimes they use methods where they cover their faces so that when they get hit, it doesn't hurt that much. But some wrestlers like to make it seem very, very real. So they actually take the hit on their head, and sometimes they may end up with concussions. And the bloodshed, that's very real. Sometimes they can get cuts from getting hit with weapons, and sometimes they use razor blades to cut themselves when they're like knocked down on the floor, laying like facing down. But yeah, that bloodshed is very real, and that's something that cannot be faked. So the third thing that I want to talk about is how injuries in professional wrestling, they are very real. There are a few examples that I can tell you about. So one of them is John Cena's torn right pectoral tendon that happened in 2007. That took him out for a few months. Some people thought it was fake, but that was actually very real. And he tore that right pectoral tendon during a match live on TV. And another injury that happened in professional wrestling, and I actually had the chance to see this in person at the Staples Center. This was in No Mercy 2017. It was a WWE pay-per-view, and it was Cesaro. He was thrown into the corner of the ring, and he went head first, and he actually chipped two teeth, and you could actually see the teeth fly out, and that had the whole crowd go like, "Whoa!" So yeah. And another example is there's a professional wrestler called Sting. He's another legend. He actually had cervical spinal stenosis. That's something that could injure the back. And another example is Stone Cold Steve Austin. He injured his neck. He damaged the nerve, and he injured his neck, and he landed head first. Because of a botched pile driver, which is pretty much a move when you pretty much supposedly land head first. But yeah, that's why professional wrestling is not fake. But to end this off, I pretty much professional wrestling is actually scripted, and it's not fake. There's a big difference between those two words. The wrestling moves, the weapons, and the bloodshed, that's something that cannot be faked. It's something that is very real, because they had to make it seem very real to the live audience. If they used like fake weapons and fake blood, people would be able to tell right away that it's very, very fake. So it's not fake, but it would make it seem like it's very, very fake, and people wouldn't buy into it. But they actually take hits from weapons, and they actually shed a lot of blood, and those wrestling moves are very real, and they hurt. And pretty much the injuries that people think are fake, they actually are very real, and they can also be life-threatening and career-ending. So because of those reasons, that's why professional wrestling is not fake, but it's scripted. And that is all. Thank you.